My name is Natalie Morrison. I'm 29 years old. And the strange thing about cutting off your entire family is that people assume the hardest part is leaving. It isn't. The hardest part is what happens when they find you again. It was 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night when the knock came. Not polite, not casual, not the kind of knock that says a neighbor needs help opening a jar or a delivery got sent to the wrong apartment. This one sounded desperate. I was standing in this kitchen, rinsing a wine glass, when Ethan looked up from the couch and frowned toward the door. "Are you expecting someone?" he asked. I wasn't. I dried my hands, walked to the door, and opened it halfway. A woman I had not seen in 4 years stood under the hallway light with blood dried near her temple, mascara smudged beneath red-rimmed eyes, and the kind of desperation that makes people look older than they are. For 1 second, I didn't recognize her. Then my stomach dropped. "Is Natalie here?" she asked, voice shaking. I stared at her. My sister. My older sister. The one I had erased so completely from my life that seeing her in front of me felt less like reality and more like a bad dream reaching through the cracks. "Who gave you this address?" I asked. "Please," she whispered. "I need to talk to you." Her name was Vanessa Morrison, 32 years old, beautiful in the way that used to make every room turn toward her, charming in the way that made consequences slide off her like rain. Growing up, Vanessa never had to become a better person, because everyone around her kept adjusting the rules to protect her from the damage she caused. I had not said her name out loud in years. Behind me, Ethan got to his feet. He was 28, steady where my life had once only known instability, the kind of man who never raised his voice and never made me guess where I stood with him. We had been together 2.5 years, living together for 6 months. In all that time, I had told him my family was gone. Not dead. Just gone. I had never explained the difference. "Natalie," Ethan said carefully. I didn't answer him. I was still staring at Vanessa. She looked awful. Her blouse was wrinkled, one sleeve torn at the cuff. There was a bruise blooming near her jaw. Her hands were trembling. A small, cruel part of me noticed all of it and thought, for once, life touched her back. "Please," she said again. "I really need your help." I stepped into the doorway so she couldn't see inside. "You need to leave." Her face cracked. "Nat, don't call me that. I'm in trouble." "You were always in trouble." She flinched. Ethan came closer, not crowding me, just close enough that I could feel his concern like warmth at my back. "Do you want me to call someone?" Vanessa looked past me then, toward him, and I saw the recognition in her eyes. Not of him specifically, but of what he was. The stable life, the calm home, the proof that I had built something after them. "No," I said. Then to her, "How did you find me?" She hesitated, and that told me enough. "You hired someone?" I didn't know what else to do. I let out a humorless laugh. "Of course." "Natalie, please, I just need 5 minutes." I should have shut the door. I know that now. I should have closed it, locked it, and left her standing in the hallway with the consequences of her own life pressing in from every side. Instead, I said, "Wait there." Then I stepped back and closed the door almost all the way. Ethan was watching me with a look I had never seen on his face before. Concern, yes, but underneath it, something more unsettled. "You know her," he said quietly. I nodded. "Who is she?" I don't know why that question hurt. Maybe because I had spent years pretending I didn't come from anyone. Maybe because saying it out loud made it real again. "She's my sister." Ethan went still. "You told me you didn't have family." "I don't." She just showed up bleeding at our door. I looked away. There are silences that feel empty, and then there are silences so full of old history that they press against your ribs until you can barely breathe. "This is exactly why," I said finally. He didn't push. That was Ethan's way. He never stormed into my pain and started rearranging furniture. He stood near it, waited. "Let me choose the door." "She says she needs help," he said. "She always needs help." Something in my voice must have told him this was bigger than one bad night. "What happened?" he asked. I laughed once, and even to me it sounded sharp. "She slept with my fiancé for 6 months." The room went completely silent. Ethan blinked. "What?" "My fiancé, the man I was supposed to marry before I moved here. She slept with him for 6 months while I was planning a wedding." He stared at me as if I had turned into someone else in front of him. I understood that feeling, because that was what this family had always done best, made me feel like the version of me who survived them was somehow unbelievable. "She's the reason I left," I said. "She's the reason I changed my number, moved across the country, started over, and told myself I was done." Ethan's face softened, but not with pity, with anger. "On my behalf." "Natalie, I came home early from a work trip," I said, the words leaving before I could stop them. Tuesday afternoon. Thought I was surprising him. Thought maybe we'd go to dinner. Instead, I walked into my apartment and found Vanessa in my bed with him. I could still see it if I let myself. The curtain half open, the frozen look on his face, her scream, the horrible stillness that comes right before your life splits cleanly in two. I didn't scream, I said. I didn't throw anything. I just left. Ethan was quiet. Outside the door, I could almost feel Vanessa waiting, like the past itself standing in the hallway, demanding to be let in. She said she loved him, I went on. That was the part that finally killed it. Not even the betrayal itself. The fact that there had been enough time for them to call it love. Ethan moved closer. And your family? I smiled then. That kind of smile that isn't really a smile at all. They held an intervention. He frowned. An intervention? For me. I looked at him. Not for her, not for him, for me. My parents, my aunt, my grandmother, all of them sitting in my living room telling me I was making things harder than they needed to be. Telling me Vanessa made a mistake. Telling me family forgives. Telling me I was being dramatic. His jaw tightened. I could still hear my father's voice from that day, calm and tired, as if my grief had been the real inconvenience. I could still hear my mother saying, "You need to move on," as if healing and surrender were the same thing. I told them to get out, I said. Then 2 weeks later, I left. I sold everything I could, quit my job, changed my number, got on a plane, and never looked back. Until tonight. Ethan exhaled slowly, processing all of it. And now she's here. Yes. What does she want? I looked toward the door. I didn't need to guess. Money, I said. It's always money. I opened the door again. Vanessa was still there, arms wrapped around herself, trying and failing to look like someone who had not spent her whole life being rescued just before impact. How much? I asked. Her shoulders sagged with relief, like she thought the question meant hope. $25,000. I actually laughed. Of course it wasn't a few $100s. Of course it wasn't rent, or groceries, or something ordinary enough to carry even a flicker of sympathy. What for? I asked. She swallowed. Gambling. Ethan muttered something under his breath and stepped back, rubbing a hand over his mouth. Vanessa started crying. Real tears this time. I thought I could win it back. I thought I just needed one more night and now someone wants to collect. She nodded. And Mom and Dad? They don't have anything left. That landed heavier than I expected. Not because I felt sorry for them, because it was so perfectly predictable. They had spent decades throwing themselves under Vanessa's collapsing life and calling it love. Then you should have thought about that before you burned through them too, I said. Her face changed. Shame. Fear. And underneath both, something I hated because I recognized it so well. Expectation. She still believed that if she cried hard enough, somebody would carry her. Natalie, please, she whispered. I'm your sister. No, I said. You stopped being my sister 4 years ago. And just as the words left my mouth, another voice sounded from the far end of the hallway. Deep, familiar, worse than hers. Natalie? I went cold before I even turned. My father was walking toward us. My father looked older than I remembered. Not softer, not smaller in the ways that matter, just older. Gray had spread through his hair at the temples, and there were deeper lines around his mouth now, but the expression was the same one I had known my whole life, the expression of a man who still believed he could enter any room, take control of its temperature, and call that love. He stopped a few feet from the door, eyes moving from Vanessa to me, then past me into the apartment, where Ethan stood silent and alert. There you are, my father said, as if I had merely stepped out for too long and was finally returning home. I almost laughed. 4 years gone. 4 years without a call, without an apology, worth the name, without anyone asking what it had cost me to rebuild my life from the ground up. And this was how he opened. There you are. What are you doing here? I asked. Vanessa called me. That doesn't answer the question. His gaze settled on me fully then, and something in it shifted. Not tenderness, not remorse, a weary irritation, like I was already making this harder than it needed to be. She said you refused to help her. I did. He nodded once, like he had expected that. Then I came to talk sense into you. Behind me, Ethan moved closer. My father noticed him immediately. And you must be Ethan, he said. I'm Richard Morrison. Ethan didn't offer his hand. I know who you are. For the first time that night, I felt a flicker of something like pride in my chest. Small, sharp, needed. My father looked back at me. Are you really going to do this in the hallway? Yes. Natalie. No, you don't get to walk into my home like nothing happened. Vanessa started crying again, quieter now, more exhausted than manipulative, but I knew better than to let the sound of it do what it had always done to this family, blur the edges of responsibility until only her pain mattered. My father lowered his voice. Your sister is in serious trouble. I know, she told me. Then you know this isn't about old grievances. Old grievances. There it was, the neat little reduction. Years of betrayal, humiliation, abandonment, folded into 2 words, flattened into something inconvenient and expired. I felt my whole body go still. This is exactly about old grievances, I said. It's about a lifetime of them. He exhaled like he was speaking to a child. Natalie, not now. Then when? My voice rose before I could stop it. When exactly am I allowed to bring it up? Before or after you asked me to save her again? His expression hardened. You have money, he said. She says you've done well for yourself. I looked at Vanessa. She dropped her eyes. Of course she had told him that part. Not that I was happy, not that I had built something good, not that I had survived. Only that I had become useful. So that's why you're here, I said softly. Not because you missed me, not because you wanted to make things right, because I can pay. That's not fair. It's true. He stepped closer. She owes dangerous people, Natalie. This is not the time to be stubborn. Ethan spoke before I could. She's not being stubborn. My father turned to him with the kind of polite contempt older men save for younger men they haven't yet decided to respect. This is a family matter. Ethan's face didn't change. Then maybe your family should have treated her like family before now. The silence that followed was so abrupt it felt physical. Vanessa looked between them, startled. My father's mouth tightened. You don't know what you're talking about. No, Ethan said evenly. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I know your daughter was betrayed by her sister. I know your family told her she was dramatic for being devastated. I know she had to leave everything behind because the people who should have protected her chose comfort over accountability. That seems pretty clear to me. For one brief second, I saw something flash in my father's face. Not guilt. Embarrassment. Because this sounded ugly when someone else said it out loud. Natalie, he said, ignoring Ethan now, is this what you've been telling people? I stared at him. That question. Out of everything. That was the one he chose. As if the worst part wasn't what they had done. As if the worst part was that I had named it. This is what happened, I said. He rubbed a hand over his jaw, the gesture familiar enough to make me hate it. We handled that situation badly. Vanessa let out a sharp, disbelieving breath, like even she understood how absurd that sentence was. Badly. Like they had overcooked dinner, missed a turn, misread a social cue, not stood in my apartment and asked me to smile through the destruction of my own future so the family could stay comfortable. We handled it badly, he repeated, but that was 4 years ago. This is now. No, I said. This is 4 years ago collecting interest. He looked at me for a long moment, and I saw him realize something then. I was not coming back into the old role willingly. I was not going to fold the second he used the word family. I was not 19 anymore, or 24, or 25, swallowing anger because I still thought love could be earned through endurance. I was standing in my own doorway in a city he had never bothered to know, in a life he had not helped build, with a man beside me who was not asking me to make peace with my own humiliation. And he hated that I could see the difference. What do you want? I asked. His answer came instantly. I want you to help your sister. There it is. She could die. Then she should go to the police. She can't. Why not? His hesitation was enough. Then Vanessa whispered, because the money isn't from the kind of people who let you go to the police. Ethan swore under his breath. I felt my stomach knot, but I forced my face to stay neutral. Fear was dangerous around people like this. It made them think they had leverage. And whose fault is that? I asked. Vanessa pressed trembling fingers to her forehead. Mine. It was the first honest word she had said all night. I looked at her more carefully then. Really looked. She wasn't just disheveled, she was unraveling. There was fear in her face, yes, but also something older beneath it. The exhaustion of someone who had finally reached the edge of a pattern she thought would never run out of road. A dangerous softness brushed the edge of me. I pushed it back. My father saw it anyway. Natalie, he said quietly, whatever happened before, she is still your sister. And there it was again, that old trick. Blood as obligation. Shared history as a debt only I was expected to pay. She stopped being my sister when she slept with my fiancé, I said, and you helped finish the job when you asked me to forgive her so everyone else could move on. His voice sharpened. That is not what happened. I laughed then, and this time there was nothing pleasant in it. Really? Then remind me, did you or did you not sit in my apartment and tell me I was making things harder than they needed to be? He said nothing. Did Mom or did she not tell me I needed to let go? Still nothing. Did Grandma or did she not say Vanessa and Daniel were in love? Vanessa flinched at Daniel's name. Good. I kept going. And did you or did you not stand there while I was told I was dramatic for not wanting to watch my own sister walk off with the man I was supposed to marry? My father's face had gone red around the collar now. We were trying to keep the family together. No, I said, you were trying to keep Vanessa comfortable. That landed. Because it was true. Because it had always been true. Vanessa cried harder then, wiping at her cheeks with the heel of her hand. I know what I did. Do you? I asked. She looked up at me, and for the first time since I'd opened the door, I saw something raw and stripped down in her expression. Yes, I waited. I ruined your life, she whispered, and everyone let me. The hallway went quiet. Even my father looked startled. I should have felt satisfaction. Instead, I felt tired. Tired in that deep, cellular way that comes from realizing an apology has arrived years too late, after the damage has already hardened into architecture. You didn't ruin my life, I said. You ruined the version of it I thought I was going to have. She swallowed. I built another one, and I meant it. I thought of early mornings in this apartment, coffee in the kitchen, Ethan half awake and smiling, the little routines that had stitched me back together so slowly I barely noticed it happening, the business I had built, the friends I had chosen, the peace I had taught myself not to distrust. I had built another life. That was the thing they would never understand. To them, I had left. To me, I had survived. My father straightened, sensing the conversation slipping away from him. Fine, he said. If you need to hear this, then hear it. We made mistakes. We should have protected you better. We should have held Vanessa accountable. We should not have expected you to forgive anything before you were ready. I stared at him. The words were almost right, which made them dangerous. Because almost right words can do what obvious lies cannot. They can tempt you to lower your guard. Then he ruined it. But this isn't about that now. This is about whether you can live with yourself if something happens to her. There it was. Not apology. Leverage. Not remorse. A new weapon made from old wounds. My chest went cold. Ethan stepped forward. You need to leave. My father ignored him. 25,000 is not a small amount, but it's not impossible for you. You have a successful business. You have assets. You can solve this. Listen to yourself, I said. You still talk about me like I'm a resource. His jaw tightened. I'm talking about your responsibility. My responsibility ended when I was the only one in that family expected to bleed quietly. Natalie! No. I said it so sharply that even Vanessa startled. You do not get to stand here and talk to me about responsibility when you spent her entire life teaching her she didn't need any. For a second, no one moved. Then my father's face changed. The calm split. Just for a moment. And underneath it was anger. There you are, I thought. There's the real thing. This bitterness is going to rot you, he said. It kept me alive. His eyes flicked toward Ethan, toward the apartment, toward the life behind me. You think this is permanent? You think one man and one city erase where you come from? I felt Ethan tense beside me. I should have shut the door then. Maybe I would have, if my father had stopped there. But instead he said, almost conversationally, I know where you live now. I know where you work. I know what you've built. I went very still. He saw it, pressed harder. So maybe think carefully before you decide to turn your back on this. Ethan's voice was ice. Are you threatening her? My father looked at him. I'm telling her actions have consequences. I actually smiled. Not because anything was funny, because suddenly the whole thing became so hideously clear. 4 years away, and still the rules were the same. Vanessa creates destruction. My parents rush in behind it. And if I resist, I become the problem again. You need to go, I said. Natalie, now. Vanessa made one last attempt, stepping toward me, with tears running down her face. Please, she whispered. I know I don't deserve it. I know I don't, but I'm scared. I believed her. That was the worst part. I believed she was scared. I believed she might actually be in danger. And I still couldn't give her what she wanted, because the fear in her face did not erase the years behind us. It did not erase my bed, my ring, my apartment, my family sitting in judgment of my pain because it was inconvenient to them. It did not erase the life I had to drag out of the ashes of what they destroyed. I'm sorry you're scared, I said, but I am not your answer. My father's expression turned flat. You'll regret this. Maybe, I said, but not as much as I regret opening the door. Then I stepped back and shut it. Vanessa was still crying when the latch clicked. For a few seconds, nobody inside the apartment moved. Then Ethan locked the deadbolt. Only after that did I realize I was shaking. He turned to me immediately. Hey. I nodded once, though the movement felt disconnected from the rest of me. That was a threat, he said. I know. Natalie, I know. I walked into the living room on legs that felt strangely light, like my body wasn't fully committed to gravity yet. Ethan followed, giving me space without leaving me alone. I sat on the couch. Then I laughed once, a frayed, ugly sound that caught in my throat halfway out. Of course, this was how they came back. Not with apology. Not with grief. With demand. Ethan sat beside me. For a while, we said nothing. Then he asked very quietly, "Do you think he meant it?" I looked toward the dark window. In the reflection, I could see both of us. Me, pale and rigid. Him watching me like he was trying to hold the room steady by force. "Yes," I said. He exhaled slowly. "Then we need to be careful." I turned to him. "You didn't sign up for this." His expression changed immediately. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Start apologizing for something you didn't cause." I looked away. "It's my family, and none of this is your fault. You don't know how far they'll go." "Maybe not." He leaned closer. "But I know this much. You're not dealing with them alone." That almost broke me. Not the threat. Not Vanessa crying. Not even my father standing there trying to drag me back into the version of myself that existed to absorb damage without complaint. That broke me, because it was so simple. So unlike what I had been taught. Not make peace. Not be the bigger person. Not think of what this will do to everyone else. Just, you're not alone. I bent forward, pressing my hands over my face. Ethan touched the back of my neck gently. "Talk to me." So I did. Not all at once. Not neatly. But enough. I told him about Vanessa at 16, charming teachers into rewriting deadlines after I got punished for missing one. Vanessa at 20, crashing Dad's car and getting sympathy because she was going through a hard time. Vanessa failing, drifting, lying, being rescued over and over until rescue became the family religion. And I was cast as the cold one whenever I refused to worship. I told him how Daniel had looked at me when I found them, not ashamed enough, just caught. How Vanessa had cried harder for herself than for me. How my mother had avoided my eyes at the intervention because some part of her knew. How I left with 2 suitcases and a phone number no one had. How I had spent the first year in this city jumping every time an unknown number called. How even after all this time, some part of me still felt guilty for surviving better than they wanted me to. Ethan listened without interrupting. When I was finished, the room felt drained out. He sat there for a second, then said, "They trained you to think love means being available for damage." I looked at him. "And now they're furious you learned otherwise." The words settled somewhere deep, because that was exactly it. Not just what they had done, what they hated. That I had become unreachable. A phone buzzed on this coffee table. Mine. Unknown number. My whole body tensed. Ethan picked it up, looked at me. "Want me to answer?" I nodded. He put it on speaker. "Hello?" For a second there was only static. Then my mother's voice came through, thin and shaking. "Please don't hang up." I closed my eyes. Of course. Of course she had found a way in too. Ethan looked at me, waiting. I held out my hand for the phone. "Mom." Her breath broke on my name. "Natalie, thank God." "Don't. Just say what you called to say." A pause. Then, carefully, "Can we meet tomorrow?" I laughed softly, with no warmth in it at all. "No. Natalie, please. Just coffee. Just 1 hour." I should have said no again. I knew I should have. But something in me, some ugly mix of anger and curiosity and the old ache of wanting someone finally to say the right thing, kept me from ending the call. "What time?" I asked. "What time?" I asked. The silence on the other end of the line stretched just long enough to make me regret the question. Then my mother said softly, carefully, like she was afraid the words might break if she said them too loudly, "Noon. There's a coffee shop on Pine Street." Of course there was. Close enough to be convenient. Public enough to feel safe. Controlled enough that she could pretend this was a conversation between 2 reasonable adults and not the aftermath of something she had helped destroy. "Fine," I said, 1 hour. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much." I hung up before she could say anything else. Ethan was watching me. "You don't have to go," he said. "I know." "Then why are you?" I looked down at my hands. Because some part of me still wanted an answer, not an apology. I didn't think she was capable of that, not in the way I needed. But something. Some acknowledgement that what happened to me had actually mattered. "I want to understand what they think they're doing," I said finally. Ethan nodded slowly. "Then I'm coming with you." "No." "Natalie." "No," I repeated, softer this time. "I need to do this alone." He didn't like it. I could see it in the way his jaw tightened, the way his fingers tapped once against his knee before going still. But he didn't argue. "Then text me when you get there," he said, "and when you leave." "I will." The next morning felt wrong from the moment I opened my eyes, like something had shifted under the surface of my life and hadn't settled yet. Ethan left for work later than usual, hesitating in the doorway like he wanted to say something more but didn't know what would actually help. "Call me if anything feels off," he said. "Everything feels off." He gave a small, humorless smile. "Fair point." Then he was gone. I spent the next hour trying to work and failing. Emails blurred together. Numbers stopped making sense halfway through spreadsheets. Every time my phone buzzed, my pulse jumped, even when it was just a calendar notification or a client confirming a meeting. At 11:45, I gave up, grabbed my coat, walked to the coffee shop. My mother was already there, sitting in the corner, hands wrapped around a cup she hadn't touched, looking smaller than I remembered. That was the first thing I noticed. Not older, smaller. Like the weight of everything she had spent years pretending not to see had finally settled into her posture. She looked up when I approached. For a moment, her face lit up in a way that made something in my chest twist before I could stop it. "Natalie." I sat down across from her. "I have an hour." She nodded quickly. Of course, of course." A server came by. I ordered coffee I didn't really want. When we were alone again, my mother took a breath like she was preparing to step into cold water. "You look good," she said. "I am." She flinched slightly, like the confidence in my voice wasn't something she knew how to respond to. "I'm glad," she said. "I worried about you." "No, you didn't." Her eyes filled immediately. "That's not fair." "It is," I said calmly. "You didn't call. You didn't look for me. You didn't try to fix anything. You let me disappear. We didn't have your number. You didn't try hard enough to find it." That landed, because we both knew it was true. People who really want to find you usually do. My mother looked down at her hands. "We handled everything wrong," she said quietly. There it was again. That phrase. Carefully constructed, technically accurate, emotionally empty. "How?" I asked. She looked up, surprised. "What?" "How did you handle it wrong?" I repeated. "Be specific." Her mouth opened, closed. For a second, I thought she might actually try. Then she said, "We should have supported you more." I leaned back in my chair. "That's not specific." "You want me to believe you understand what you did," I said. "Then say it." She swallowed hard. We minimized what happened," she said slowly. "We asked you to forgive Vanessa too quickly." "That's still not it." Her voice shook now. "What do you want me to say?" "The truth." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "The truth is," she whispered, "we were afraid of losing Vanessa." I went still. There it was, not wrapped in soft language, not hidden behind vague regret. The real thing. "We thought if we pushed too hard," she continued, "she would spiral, that she would leave, that something bad would happen to her. So we tried to keep things calm, keep the family together." "At my expense." Her silence confirmed it. "At my expense," I repeated. "I didn't think you would leave," she said, voice breaking. "I thought you were stronger. I thought you would stay." I laughed softly, not because it was funny, because it was so perfectly consistent. Vanessa was fragile, so she was protected. I was strong, so I was expected to endure. "You didn't lose me," I said. "You gave me away." My mother covered her mouth, sobbing quietly. "I know," she said. "I know that now." "Do you?" I asked. She nodded, desperate. Yes, I do. I've had 4 years to think about it. 4 years of empty holidays, empty birthdays, wondering where you are, if you're okay. But you didn't come looking. We didn't know how." I shook my head. "That's not the same thing." She fell quiet again. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she said carefully, "Your father, he didn't mean to threaten you last night." I almost smiled. "He did. He's just desperate." "So am I," I said. "Desperate to keep my life from turning back into what it was." She nodded slowly. "I understand that." "No," I said, "you don't." Her eyes lifted to mine. "If you understood," I went on, "you would have left last night. You would have taken Vanessa and gone home. You would have told her to deal with the consequences of her choices without dragging me into it." Her face crumpled. "But she could die." There it was again. The one argument they had left. The only one that had ever worked. I leaned forward slightly. "And whose fault is that?" My mother closed her eyes. "Not yours," she whispered. "Then stop trying to make it mine." She opened her eyes again, searching my face like she was trying to find a version of me that would give her what she wanted. "I'm not asking you to fix her life forever," she said. "Just this once. Just this one time to keep her safe. Just this once." The phrase echoed in my head like something poisonous. Because it had never been just once. It had been every time. Every crash. Every failure. Every bad decision softened by someone else stepping in. "That's what you said when she failed out of college," I said. "That's what you said when she got fired, when she wrecked your car, when she racked up debt, when she cheated with my fiancé." My mother flinched. "You said just this once so many times you stopped noticing it wasn't once anymore. She's different now, she insisted weakly. I held her gaze. No, she's not. And we both knew it. A long silence settled between us. Then, quietly, she said, "Is there anything I can do to fix this?" I thought about that. About everything that word, fix, implied. About all the ways they had tried to fix things before without ever actually changing anything. Yes, I said. Hope flickered across her face. Leave. It died instantly. Take Vanessa. Go home. Let her face whatever she's facing without using me as a solution. But that's the only way this ends, I said. Otherwise, you'll keep pulling me back in every time she falls apart. My mother's hands tightened around her cup. I can't do that. Then nothing changes. Tears slid down her face again. I love you, she whispered. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't believe her, but because I had learned the hard way that love, the way she understood it, did not include choosing me when it mattered. After a moment, I stood. My hour's up. Natalie. I mean it, I said. This is your last chance to leave my life alone. Then I walked out. I texted Ethan as soon as I stepped outside. Done, I'm okay, heading home. He replied instantly. Call me if anything changes. I didn't think anything would. I was wrong. Ethan came home late that evening. The moment he walked through the door, I could see it in his face. Something had happened. What is it? I asked. He closed the door behind him, exhaling hard. Your father showed up at my office. My stomach dropped. What? Walked right past reception like he owned the place, Ethan said. Came straight into my office while I had a client there. Heat flared in my chest. What did he do? Started asking about you, about us, about my business. Said we needed to have a conversation about family responsibility. I pressed my fingers to my temple, and I had security escort him out. For a second, all I could hear was the sound of my own pulse. He actually did it, I said. He actually crossed into your work. Ethan nodded. Yeah. I'm so sorry. Stop, he said immediately. None of this is your fault. But it's because of me. It's because of them, he corrected. There's a difference. I sank onto the couch. For the first time since all of this started, fear settled in properly. Not just for me, for us. They're not going to stop, I said quietly. Ethan sat beside me. Then we figure out how to make them stop. Before I could respond, there was a sudden, violent pounding on the door. Both of us froze. The sound came again. Louder. Faster. Desperate. Ethan stood. Stay here. I shook my head, already moving. No. He opened the door. Vanessa stood there, worse than before. Her lip was split, one eye swelling, blood smeared across her collar. They found me, she gasped. They beat me. Natalie, please. Her voice broke into sobs. They said I have 48 hours. The world seemed to tilt. Ethan glanced at me. I looked at Vanessa, at the damage, at the fear, at the familiar shape of chaos reaching for me again. And for one terrible second, I didn't know what I was going to do. For one terrible second, I didn't know what I was going to do. Vanessa was shaking so badly she had to grab the doorframe to stay upright. Blood had dried along her cheek in uneven streaks, and her breathing came in short, panicked bursts, like her body hadn't caught up to the fact that she was still alive. They said 48 hours, she repeated. Natalie, please, I don't have anyone else. The words hit exactly where they were designed to, because once upon a time, I had been that person. The one she could always fall back on. The one who stayed. The one who fixed things. Ethan looked at me, not saying anything, but I could feel the question in his silence. What can you live with? Not what your family expects. Not what guilt demands. What you can live with. I stepped back from the door. Come inside, I said. Vanessa let out a broken breath of relief and stumbled forward. Ethan moved quickly, guiding her to the couch. Sit down. He disappeared into the kitchen and came back with a clean towel and a glass of water. Press this against your lip, he said gently. She obeyed without argument, hands still trembling. I stayed standing, watching her, taking in every detail, not just the injuries, the patterns. The way even now, even bleeding and terrified, she looked at me like I was the answer. What happened? I asked. She swallowed hard. I tried to stay somewhere else, a motel. They found me, dragged me outside, said if I don't have the money in 2 days, they won't just hurt me next time. Ethan's jaw tightened. Did you go to the police, Gemma? He asked. She shook her head immediately. I can't. They said, I don't care what they said, he cut in. This is serious. They'll make it worse, she whispered. You don't understand how people like that work. I did, not from experience, but from everything that had already happened in the last 24 hours. I looked at Ethan, then back at Vanessa. How much exactly? I asked. You know how much. Say it. 25,000. The number hung in the air like something solid, heavy, final. Ethan leaned back slightly, running a hand over his face. Vanessa looked at me again. I'll pay you back, she said quickly. I swear, I'll get a job. I'll... Stop! She froze. Don't say things you don't mean, I said quietly. Her mouth snapped shut. Silence filled the room. I could feel it building, that familiar tension. The moment where everything turns, where a choice gets made that you can't take back. Ethan stood slowly. I'm going to step into the other room, he said. You two need to talk. I nodded. He left without another word. The door to the bedroom closed softly behind him, and suddenly it was just me and Vanessa. Again, like it had been 4 years ago. Except this time, I wasn't the one standing in the ruins. She was. I'm not giving you the money, I said. Her face crumpled instantly. Natalie. No. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I'm going to die. You might, I said. The words tasted like ash. But that's not something I can fix. She stared at me like I had just struck her. I said I was sorry. I know. I said I ruined your life. I know. Then how can you... Because you didn't just ruin my life once, I said, my voice finally breaking through the control I had been holding on to all night. You've been ruining things your entire life, and every time someone steps in and saves you. Her breathing hitched. And this, I gestured between us, at the apartment, at everything she had brought crashing back into my life. This is what happens when that never stops. She shook her head violently. This is different. It's always different, I said. That's the point. There's always a new reason, a new emergency, a new promise that it won't happen again. I mean it this time. You meant it last time too. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. For a moment, the only sound was her uneven breathing. Then, quietly, she said, So that's it? I looked at her, at the sister I had grown up with. The one who used to braid my hair when we were little. The one who used to make me laugh so hard I couldn't breathe. The one who stood in my bedroom, wearing my engagement ring and telling me she was in love with the man I was going to marry. I already gave you everything I had, I said softly. You just didn't realize it at the time. Her face collapsed. I turned away. Because if I kept looking at her, I might break. And I couldn't afford to break. Not now. Not again. The silence stretched. Then, my phone rang. Unknown number. My entire body went rigid. Vanessa looked up sharply. Ethan opened the bedroom door immediately. I answered. Hello? A man's voice came through. Low. Calm. Cold in a way that didn't need to be loud, to be terrifying. Is this Natalie Morrison? My blood ran cold. Who's asking? Your sister owes me money. I closed my eyes briefly. Of course it had reached this point. I'm not responsible for her debts, I said. You are now. Ethan stepped closer, his expression hard. You have $25,000, the voice continued. She told me you're successful, that you can afford it. Vanessa started shaking again. I'm not paying you anything. A pause. Then, midnight tomorrow. My grip tightened on the phone. What? Midnight tomorrow, he repeated. You bring the money, or she dies. Silence slammed into the room. And if I don't, I asked, my voice barely steady. Another pause. Longer this time. Then I start expanding the problem. Something in the way he said it made my stomach drop. What does that mean? It means I know where you live. My breath caught. Ethan went completely still. It means I know you work from home, the man continued. It means I know your boyfriend's name. Ethan, right? My heart slammed against my ribs. Vanessa let out a choked sob. You don't get to decide you're not involved, he said. You're involved because I say you are. The line went dead. No goodbye. No warning. Just gone. The silence that followed felt suffocating. Ethan spoke first. We're calling the police. He said not to. I don't care what he said. I looked at Vanessa. At the fear. At the damage. At the truth of what was happening. This wasn't just her problem anymore. It wasn't just my past knocking on the door. It had crossed the line. Into my life. Into Ethan's life. Into something that could actually hurt us. I nodded. Okay. The police came within 15 minutes. Took statements. Asked questions. Wrote everything down. Their faces were serious in the way that told me this wasn't new to them, but it also wasn't something they took lightly. You should consider staying somewhere else for a few days, one officer said. If they're making direct threats, it's better to be cautious. Ethan didn't hesitate. We will. Vanessa sat silent through all of it. Small, shaking. For once, not the center of attention. Just the source of it. That night, we packed quickly. Essentials only. Clothes, documents, cash. No digital trail. No predictable patterns. We checked into a hotel across town under Ethan's name. Lying in that unfamiliar bed, staring at a ceiling that didn't belong to me, I finally understood something I hadn't let myself fully admit before. You don't outrun a family like mine. You just get distance. Until the distance closes. Ethan turned toward me. We'll get through this, he said quietly. I nodded, but I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure how. The next day blurred. Calls. Waiting. Watching the clock. At 6 p.m., the text came. An address. A warehouse in an industrial area. 11 p.m. Ethan looked at me. I'm going. I'm coming with you. No. Yes. We argued. Not loudly, but intensely. Until finally, he exhaled. Fine, but you stay in the car. I nodded. At 10:45, we pulled into the lot. Dark. Empty. Except for 2 cars already parked near the entrance. My pulse was so loud I could hear it. Ethan grabbed the duffel bag from the back seat. $25,000. Cash. The price of ending this. Or at least pretending to. Stay here, he said. I nodded. Locked the doors. Phone in my hand. Ready. Watching. 3 men stepped out of the shadows. One of them spoke on the phone last night. I knew it immediately. Vanessa was with them. Bruised. Hands tied. Alive. Ethan walked forward. Slow. Controlled. He handed over the bag. The man opened it. Counted. Then nodded. Debts paid. He shoved Vanessa forward. She stumbled. Fell. Caught herself. The men got back into their cars. And just like that, they were gone. Vanessa turned to Ethan, crying. Thank you so much. I knew you would. He punched her. 1 clean hit. She hit the ground hard. I flinched. Not because I thought it was wrong. Because I understood it. Don't ever contact us again, Ethan said. His voice was flat. Empty. Done. Not me, not Natalie, not our home, not our lives. Vanessa stared up at him, stunned. I mean it, he continued. You got what you came for. That's the last thing you ever get. Then he turned, walked back to the car, got in. We drove away. Neither of us looked back. 2 weeks later, we were gone. New city, new apartment, new numbers, new life. Again. This time we were more careful. Harder to find, harder to reach. But as I stood in this kitchen of our new place, watching Ethan unpack boxes like this was something normal people did, I felt that familiar weight settle in my chest. Not fear, not exactly. Something quieter, more permanent. The knowledge that some things don't end. They just wait until they find you again. Ethan looked up. You okay? I nodded, then walked over and wrapped my arms around him. I am now, I said. And for the first time since the knock on the door, I meant it.